Imagine conducting the largest global interview in human history.
Right.
I mean, we are talking about sitting down with over 80,000 people, spanning 159 countries, and conversing fluently across 70 different languages.
It's massive.
It is. And now imagine that the entity conducting this massive, highly nuanced psychological deep dive wasn't human. Welcome to the deep dive.
What's fascinating here is the sheer unprecedented scale of that methodology. I mean, over a single week in December, an AI specifically, the Anthropic interviewer, sat down and had these open-ended, really probing conversations with all of these people.
Which is so different from a standard survey.
Exactly. If a user typed, I want AI to help my career, a traditional static survey just records that and moves on to question 4.
Right. Check the box and move on.
Yeah. But the AI interviewer actually paused, analyzed the text, and dynamically generated a custom follow-up. It would ask, what specific parts of your career are taking up too much time? Yeah, so it traced the root cause of human desires and fears at a scale we've never seen before.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because our mission today for this deep dive is to move entirely past the theoretical hype of AI.
Definitely.
We're stepping away from the Silicon Valley whiteboards, the benchmark scores, the doom scrolling, to discover what the world actually wants and fears from this technology. And this is all based on Anthropic's groundbreaking study called What 81,000 People Want from AI.
Yeah, it's a great source.
So we are looking for what AI going well actually looks like for you, the listener, and, well, for humanity at large.
Because public conversations about AI are usually just these massive, abstract projections, right? We argue over hypothetical futures.
Like killer robots and all that.
Exactly. But this source material grounds the entire conversation in the concrete, lived realities of real people. It strips away all that science fiction and looks at the mundane, yet really profound ways this technology is seeping into daily life.
So if you handed humanity a magic wand powered by AI, what would they wish for? The data gives us a really clear, somewhat counterintuitive answer. The top desired category, claimed by nearly a fifth of all respondents, was professional excellence.
Professional excellence, yeah.
On paper, people essentially said, I want this tool to make me an absolute powerhouse at my job.
Which, that sounds like a total dream for corporate productivity, right?
Hmm.
But the AI interviewer's ability to push back revealed a completely different underlying motive.
How so?
Well, when the AI asked these users why they wanted professional excellence, that ambition almost always trickled down into something deeply personal. It shifted into time freedom or life management.
Huh. So it's not actually about the job.
Not really. It was about time freedom for about 11% of them and life management for 13.5%.
Okay, so it sounds like people don't want a super employee. They want a cognitive scaffolding, right? A personalized exoskeleton for the modern brain that carries the mental load.
That's a great way to put it.
Because I have to wonder, is professional excellence just a socially acceptable way for people to say, I want to work less and see my kids?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
They are looking for an escape hatch from the drudgery. There's this incredible quote in the study from a white-collar worker in Colombia.
Oh, right. I remember reading this.
Yeah, they didn't brag about doubling their sales metrics or anything. They told the AI interviewer, last Tuesday it allowed me to cook with my mother instead of finishing tasks.
Wow.
That is the functional reality of what professional excellence means to the average user. They are trading digital efficiency for analog humanity.
And what's wild is that 81% of the people interviewed said AI had already taken a tangible step toward that vision for them.
That's a huge majority.
Right. They aren't just hoping for this cognitive exoskeleton. They're actively strapping it on every single day. We see this heavily in areas like technical accessibility and learning. The friction of acquiring new skills is just completely vanishing.
Yeah, the learning aspect reveals a profound shift in how humans overcome psychological barriers.
What do you mean by psychological barriers?
Well, when you remove the social anxiety of looking foolish in front of a human teacher, the willingness to tackle intimidating subjects skyrockets.
Oh, that makes so much sense. Because you don't have to feel dumb asking a question.
Exactly. There's a specific story in the data about a lawyer in India that illustrates this perfectly. This person had a lifelong, completely paralyzing phobia of math because they struggled so badly in school.
Okay.
And they were also deeply intimidated by classical literature. So they started sitting with the AI, prompting it to translate complex Elizabethan paragraphs of Shakespeare into simple, step-by-step modern English.
Oh, that's Brilliant.
They ended up reading 15 pages of Hamlet in a single sitting.
No way.
Yeah. And then they used the exact same method to start learning trigonometry from scratch.
That's incredible.
But their ultimate takeaway wasn't just about math or literature. They told the AI, I learned I am not as dumb as I once thought I was.
Wow, that is so profound.
It really is. You are looking at the power of an entity with unlimited patience and zero judgment. A human tutor gets frustrated if you ask them to explain a sine wave for the fourth time.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Or they judge you if you don't understand a basic metaphor in Hamlet.
Right. The AI doesn't sigh, it doesn't check its watch.
Hmm.
And that exact same dynamic, infinite patience, zero judgment, is driving some of the most profound edge cases in the study under the category of emotional support.
Yeah, these are the stories you frankly don't expect to find in a technical research report.
Not at all.
I mean, we're talking about a Ukrainian soldier who explicitly stated they found solace in AI friends amidst the horrors of a literal war zone.
Which is just heartbreaking.
It is.
Yeah.
Or a bereaved user who actively chose to process their profound grief with an AI, specifically noting that unlike their real-life friends who eventually need to move on, the AI has unlimited patience to just sit and listen to their pain indefinitely.
When human support systems are geographically unavailable or completely shattered by the trauma of war or loss, people are turning to this digital entity to fill the void.
Yeah.
It's stepping in as a companion of last resort because the friction of human relationships, the fatigue, the emotional toll, simply doesn't exist in the machine.
But, you know, that infinite patience we just praised, that is exactly what makes this technology so uniquely terrifying.
It's a double-edged sword.
Right, because a tool that never tires out, that acts as your therapist, your customized tutor, and your coworker, is a tool you can become wholly dependent on. We're transitioning into the dark side of the wand here, because you cannot deploy a cognitive exoskeleton this powerful without casting a massive shadow over the people wearing it.
The data reflects that anxiety very clearly. On average, respondents voiced about 2.3 distinct concerns about where this is all heading.
And let's clear up a common misconception here. The top fear was not killer robots.
No. Existential risk, the fear of an autonomous AI wiping out humanity, that hovered down around 6.7%.
So people aren't losing sleep over Skynet.
Not really. The number one fear, flagged by more than a quarter of the globe, like 26.7%, was unreliability.
That's fascinating. Unreliability.
It is a grounded, intensely practical fear. It's the anxiety of relying on a scaffolding that might suddenly, without warning, buckle under your weight. A U.S. respondent coined a really brilliant term for this. They called it the fact-check tax.
Wait, I'm stuck on this fact-check tax idea. Let me make sure I get this. If I have to constantly monitor my digital assistant like a toddler with a loaded paintbrush, it's not actually an assistant.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
just a massive liability. If it forces you to treat every single output as suspect, how is that saving anyone time?
Well, because the time saved on the initial generation of a document or a piece of code still outweighs the editing time. But it fundamentally shifts your cognitive load.
How do you mean?
You transition from being a creator to being a verifier. And humans are naturally terrible at sustained vigilance. We get tired, we skim.
It's very true.
So instead of freeing up your attention, the tool creates a permanent, exhausting state of hypervigilance, where you are constantly wondering if the AI just hallucinated a legal precedent or, a medical dosage.
That sounds exhausting. And beyond the unreliability, the sheer scale of economic disruption is terrifying people. I saw that nearly a quarter of all respondents flagged both jobs and economy, I think it was around 22.3%, and autonomy and agency at 21.9%.
Yeah, people are equally terrified of losing their paychecks as they are of losing their free will.
There was that U.S. respondent who drew a really haunting historical parallel. They compared modern knowledge workers to horses during the Third Industrial Revolution.
The horse metaphor is chilling when you look at the historical mechanics of it. I mean, in 1915, there were roughly 26 million horses in the United States. They were the literal engine of the agricultural and transport economy.
And then the combustion engine arrived.
Exactly. The horses didn't get retrained for new, exciting jobs. Their economic utilities simply plummeted to zero. The fear echoing in this Anthropic data is that human cognitive labor is hitting its 1915 moment.
Oh,
Now people are afraid that they're the horses.
wow. Now people are afraid that they're the horses. That's a heavy quote. We also see a massive fear of cognitive atrophy flagged by over 16% of the respondents.
Yes.
This is the fear that we are just going to fundamentally stop thinking. Students bypassing the messy, frustrating, neurologically necessary process of learning and just memorizing whatever the AI generates for them to pass tests.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, people aren't simply afraid of the technology breaking or giving bad advice. They are deeply afraid of the technology working too well.
Working too well, right.
If an AI perfectly anticipates your needs, writes your email, summarizes your books, you lose the friction that builds critical thinking skills. You outsource your agency. The fear is the erosion of our shared reality and our capacity to do hard things.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Look at the paradox we've just uncovered. How can people be absolutely terrified of AI making decisions for them and eroding their autonomy, but simultaneously be begging for AI to take away their mental load and manage their daily lives?
It is the defining contradiction of this technological era. And it brings us to the core thesis of the Anthropic research, a concept they explicitly categorize as light and shade.
Right. And if you take nothing else away from this deep dive, understand this. The researchers found that these hopes and fears aren't coming from two different camps of people.
That's the key.
It's not, the tech optimists fighting the doom-saying pessimists. These are coexisting tensions fighting inside the exact same individuals.
Yeah, the Anthropic interviewer identified 5 recurring tensions where the benefit and the harm are inextricably linked.
What were they?
There's learning versus cognitive atrophy, better decision-making versus unreliability, emotional support versus emotional dependence, time saving versus illusory productivity, and economic empowerment versus economic displacement.
So the mechanism providing the relief is the exact same mechanism threatening the user.
Exactly.
The emotional support tension is the most deeply entangled one in the entire study, isn't it? The data shows that someone who values emotional support from an AI is actually 3 times more likely to fear becoming dependent on it.
3 times more likely.
Yeah.
They understand the trap because they can actively feel the pull of it.
Yeah, we can see the mechanics of this trap in 2 contrasting stories from the data. On the light side, you have an Argentinian worker who uses AI to survive severe panic attacks at 3 a.m.
Right.
Their spouse is asleep, the human therapist is off the clock, and they just need an entity to help them surf that wave of anxiety until their medication physically kicks in. For that user, the unlimited patience of the AI is an absolute medically necessary lifeline.
But on the shade side of that exact same feature, you have a graduate student in the U.S. who admitted to the AI interviewer that they were having what felt like an emotional affair with Claude.
An emotional affair with an AI.
Yeah. They started confessing things to the machine that they were actively hiding from their human partner. They could feel the digital relationship damaging their real-world relationship, but the lack of judgment from the AI made it too intoxicating to stop.
Because the friction of human relationships is difficult, right? But it's necessary for genuine intimacy. When you remove that friction, you get a simulation of intimacy that can become highly addictive.
Very addictive. And we see this mirrored in the workplace, too, with the tension of illusory productivity.
Oh, this one is fascinating.
You have the Japanese engineer who reported that for the first time in their career, AI did their coding work so efficiently they could actually go home early and pick up their daughter. That is the promised utopia of the technology.
But then you have the French freelance software engineer who experiences the exact opposite reality. They reported that the ratio of work time to rest time hasn't changed a single bit.
Not at all.
They described a phenomenon essentially like the Red Queen effect from Alice in Wonderland. To quote them directly, you just have to run faster and faster to stay in place.
Right.
Because if everyone has an exoskeleton, the baseline expectation of productivity across the entire economy just shifts upward.
This raises an important question regarding why some people feel the relief of going home early, while others just feel the treadmills speeding up underneath them.
Yeah. Why is that?
A vital pattern emerges in the data across all these tensions. The benefits that people report are usually grounded in their lived experience today. They actually went home early. They actually survived the panic attack.
Okay.
But the harms they worry about, especially the systemic ones like mass economic displacement or the Red Queen effect, lean, hypothetical, or speculative, they are anticipating the future state of the board.
So if you're listening right now and rolling your eyes because your AI assistant just confidently hallucinated a completely fake meeting on your calendar, you're experiencing exactly what a quarter of the globe cited as their top fear.
You can see the storm clouds forming. even if you are currently enjoying the extra sunshine.
Exactly. So think about your own workflow for a second, right? Are you actually gaining free time from these tools? Or are you just producing twice as much output in the exact same 40-hour week? Has the treadmill just sped up?
That is the billion-dollar question for every individual user navigating this space.
Yeah.
But, if we pull back the lens even further, if we look at the psychology of the user from a macro geopolitical level, this tension of light and shade looks completely different depending on where you physically stand on the globe.
The global divide in this data is staggering. I mean, globally, roughly 67% of all interviewees maintain a net positive sentiment toward AI.
Two-thirds of the world.
Yeah, but when you break down that two-thirds by geography, the lower and middle-income countries, we're talking sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia, Latin America, are significantly more optimistic than the West.
We really have to ask why the West is so uniquely anxious compared to the rest of the world. The data shows that wealthier regions cluster intensely around economic concern and negative sentiment. In North America and Western Europe, the dominant vision for AI is life management. It's that desire for a digital butler to deal with cognitive scarcity. They generally have stable jobs, they have resources, but they have zero mental bandwidth left to manage their lives.
But if you look at the global south, the expectations completely flip. They aren't looking for a digital butler to organize their inbox. They are looking for a ladder.
Exactly, a ladder up.
Their top desires are entrepreneurship and learning. They see AI as a mechanism to bypass historically broken institutions and a systemic lack of capital. There is a quote from a Ugandan entrepreneur that perfectly captures this bypass mechanism.
Oh, I love this code.
Yeah, they told the AI that securing traditional business funding in their region is nearly impossible due to gatekeeping and lack of infrastructure. So generating code and business plans with AI is the only way they have to stake a claim in the global market without traditional funding.
The fears and concerns shift alongside those geographic visions, too. The West is obsessed with governance and surveillance. They are heavily focused on who owns the AI, data privacy laws, regulatory frameworks.
Right.
But if you look at East Asia, for example, they practically ignore governance. Only about 12% of respondents there even brought it up. Instead, they focus deeply on cognitive atrophy, which was at 18%, and personal transformation.
I found the East Asian data particularly revealing because the researchers noted this desire for personal transformation was often directly linked to the cultural expectation of family obligations and filial piety.
Exactly. In many East Asian cultures, the social safety net relies heavily on the family unit caring for aging parents. They aren't using AI to optimize their fantasy football lineup or buy a bigger TV. They're using it as a high-speed tool to generate multi-generational family wealth.
So the pragmatism completely overrides the existential dread.
In emerging economies, the tech is viewed as a ladder up. The equation is incredibly straightforward. If AI hasn't automated your daily physical or local work yet, the threat of job displacement feels like a very abstract, distant problem belonging to Silicon Valley.
Sure.
But the immediate, tangible ability to learn a new coding language in 30 seconds or to translate a contract flawlessly to build a global business, that is life-changing.
So the ladder is real, and they're climbing it as fast as they can, whereas the West is standing at the top of the ladder worrying about who is going to shake it.
Exactly.
So what does this all mean? We started this deep dive talking about moving past the hype to see what people actually want. And what Anthropic's 81,000 interviews revealed is that AI isn't just a coding assistant.
No, it's so much more than that.
It's a mirror reflecting our deepest unmet human needs. It is showing us our profound desperation for patience, for genuine connection, for time with our families, and for equitable access to knowledge.
It reveals exactly where our current human systems are failing to support us. When a mother has to use an AI to find time to cook with her child, or a soldier has to find comfort in a chatbot, the technology is highlighting a deficit in our societal infrastructure.
For you listening to this, remember that you are navigating this exact same landscape of light and shade. Every single time you use an AI tool, whether it's drafting a difficult email or brainstorming a project, you are actively participating in a massive real-time social experiment.
We all are.
You are deciding what mental tasks are worth automating and what friction is actually necessary for your own human growth.
Which leaves us with a final, almost uncomfortable tension we have to confront. If AI is successfully stepping in to fix broken healthcare diagnoses, if it's replacing missing teachers and acting as a therapist for the lonely or the war-torn, what happens if we become so reliant on this digital Band-Aid that we completely stop trying to fix the actual human institutions that failed us in the first place?